With the NFL trade deadline approaching on Tuesday, is another move coming for the Philadelphia Eagles? If it happens, if a move doesn't happen, we're still going to cover all of the latest happenings around the Birds. That's why you subscribe, because win, lose, in-season, off-season, we have you covered with daily Eagles news, rumors, analysis, live shows, and watch parties. So fly, Eagles, fly, and hit that red subscribe button right now. And if you like what you see here on Eagles Now, on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, which has about 320,000 YouTube subscribers, we'll be live on Tuesday for the NFL trade deadline, breaking down all of the deals as they come in. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Head over there and subscribe for more trade deadline coverage. We begin with Andre Dillard, and then we'll start taking your questions. So a lot of teams, rightfully so, and understandably so, very interested in Andre Dillard with the deadline coming up on Tuesday, as I said. And he's expected to have a lot of interest from offensive line needy teams. And when you're building a football team, couple of positions that you have to hone in on and lock down. Of course, it's quarterback, but also it's offensive tackle, it's edge rusher. I'm a firm believer that you get your quarterback and then you build your organization. You build your rosters from inside out, from the trenches back, and that's what a lot of teams are trying to do, and a lot of teams do need an offensive tackle. So with Andre Dillard, he is healthy and was active for the first time this year against the Dallas Cowboys after suffering that broken arm in the lead up to the regular season. And for me, offensive line depth is vital for a Super Bowl contender, and that's why I would probably side with not trading away Andre Dillard. But the Birds did surrender a fourth-round pick to the Chicago Bears for Robert Quinn, and for Andre Dillard, they might be able to get back a second- or third-round pick to add to the chest full of draft assets that Howie Roseman has at his disposal. The predicament also, will Howie Roseman try to get value for a guy who's no doubt going to leave in free agency, in my opinion, because right now he's stuck behind Jordan Mailata on the depth chart. He just wants more playing time as a former first-round pick who is a capable starter. There's also this report from Jordan Schultz, who has some interesting things to say and report on the Andre Dillard front. Sources tell us that two quality offensive linemen who are receiving interest and are available for the right price. That's something to note there. It's Broncos left guard Dalton Reisner, and it's Eagles left tackle Andre Dillard, who's currently behind Jordan Mailata. Both players in the final year of their rookie contracts, and both are proven NFL starters. As for what Jeremy Fowler said this week on the Dillard front, an Eagles player that still has trade interest is left tackle Andre Dillard. Teams I've talked to believe the Eagles would move him, but they need a good pick to do so, most likely a third-rounder. So if that's what the asking price is for the Birds, and another team comes calling with a third-rounder or a second-rounder, Howie Roseman, we know he's very aggressive. He might look at that scenario and say, you know what? A second, third-round pick, we might be able to get an Andre Dillard replacement. The only thing is if Jordan Mailata went down, you'd go back to Jack Driscoll, and he was a little bit shaky at right tackle against Micah Parsons and filling in for Lane Johnson. Dillard last year, I thought he played pretty good football when Jordan Mailata was out. And he was able to rebound from a very slow start to his NFL career. If you remember, he was drafted out of Washington State. He played there under Mike Leach, drafted in the first round. Everybody was calling Andre Dillard a steal. But his career got off to a rocky start. He admitted that in between the ears, mentally, he was not ready for the rigors of the NFL. And then physically, he was somewhat soft. And he's had a couple of sparring sessions with guys like Derek Barnett throughout practices. But I like that nasty streak, because that wasn't there when he first came into the league. And last year, he needed to prove that he could play well, and he did. I mean, you look at these numbers here, the sample size is pretty large. 340 snaps, 7 penalties, not great by any means. 1 sack allowed, 1 hit allowed. The 20 pressures are a lot from that left tackle spot, but you have to keep in mind that Jalen Hurts at that quarterback position, he's a scrambler in the pocket, and when he senses pressure, oftentimes he's trying to maneuver the pocket, run around, and make plays happen downfield for others in the aerial attack or for himself on the ground game. So the pressures number, a little bit misleading there, but certainly it could be a little bit better. Another thing that comes down to his trade value is the injuries that Dillard has suffered throughout his career. He had that forearm fracture that he came back from, and that's why he's now active and was active for the first time this year against Dallas. Didn't play, though, because Dillard was still behind Jordan Mailata and will continue to be as long as Mailata is upright. In 2020, missed the entire season because of a torn biceps, and then in training camp, he had that concussion. So injury problems, a little bit of a concern for Dillard, but other teams out there, no question, will be willing to mortgage draft compensation for Dillard because he can be a left tackle and a starter in this league. As for the Eagles' 2023 draft picks, you look at them here. They still have that first rounder from the Saints, which right now is going to be top 5. They have their own first-round pick, which will be late in the draft because, hey, go Birds, they're still undefeated. A second-round pick, which is their own. A third-round pick, which is their own. They traded that fourth for Robert Quinn, as noted here on your screen. They have a 7th from the Vikings, and they have their own pick in the 7th round as well. So Howie season, it's going full throttle. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Andre Dillard. So with that, let's ask you this before we start taking your questions. What would you do? This is today's poll question. Would you trade Andre Dillard? Give me a T for trade, a K for keep. Hey, let's hear from you right now in the comment section. All right, we'll start answering your questions here. Trees. Is it worth really trading for Kamara? He's a good player, but he's openly disrespected the Eagles and the fans themselves in the past. Also, he has character issues. There are some character issues with Alvin Kamara, no question. We know what happened at the Pro Bowl. That's why he was arrested and basically hunted down by Las Vegas police. He has taken shots at Eagles in the past, but honestly, who wouldn't like playing for the lone unbeaten team in the NFL with an opportunity to win a Super Bowl? He'd still be making money, and I'm sure that the fan base would be able to rally around a guy like Kamara when they see him run the football like he does, but also catch the football like he does. DeBull, you're my bull. Salute to you, my cuz. I say we go after Kareem Hunt. I think it's somewhat unlikely, but honestly, if you compare Kareem Hunt to Alvin Kamara, there's a little bit more flexibility there with Kareem Hunt. He's cheaper. He's in the final year of his contract. And Alvin Kamara, very expensive. Trace, if we can show those contract details for Alvin Kamara, the cap hit in a couple of years at age 30, very, very concerning. And the base salary, pretty high for a running back in my estimation. 2023, $9.5 million base salary, $16 million cap hit. 2024, 10.2 and 16.8. And 2025, at 30 years old, a $27 million cap hit for a running back. That scares the shit out of me if I'm just keeping it honest. Ozzy, if the Eagles don't reach or win the Super Bowl, do you think this season was a bust, or should we anticipate a better year 2 with this team? If I would have told you at the start of the Nick Sirianni era that they would go to the Super Bowl or at least get close in year 2, a lot of people would probably take that. Now, expectations were high for this football team going into this year, and understandably so because they have a stacked roster. I think it's about NFC title game, Super Bowl or bust. You're still undefeated. The schedule's been somewhat sketchy, somewhat spotty, and somewhat weak. But this team, when you look at the overall talent gap and the execution level and how clean they've played with penalties and the lack of turnovers and forcing turnovers defensively, I don't know if there's another team that's on par with Philadelphia right now. So yes, they should win the NFC in my opinion. Cool Reigns, big supporter of what we do. Some might say, you are cool, my homie. Did you see the Roquan Smith press conference yesterday? Yes, he cried. He cried because his boy, Robert Quinn, was traded to Philadelphia. Now, does that mean that Roquan Smith could get traded to the Birds as well? We talked about that briefly last week here on the show, that it is a possibility. If the Bears are going full fire sale, maybe Roquan Smith could be a part of that. But it would be pretty fascinating because Roquan, entering the final year of his contract, he's looking to get paid. While I do, did y'all lose me or am I good? While I do like Roquan Smith as a player, he is so much better than a guy like TJ Edwards, who I also like. Having a guy like Roquan Smith on your defense, can you imagine him just wreaking havoc from sideline to sideline? He's not really a pass rusher. He's more of a coverage linebacker, but honestly, that's kind of what this team needs, and that's where this team could thrive. Nick Stone, last question in this mailbag, then we'll start chopping it up with everybody outside of this segment. Do you think we should try and trade for Jabril Peppers? He is a target of mine because he is a very good backup safety, in my opinion. I think that Jabril Peppers would shore up a lot of the concerns that I have right now on this Eagles team. in terms of the backup safety spot. I thought against Dallas, this defense really started to struggle in the pass game against Cooper Rush once C.J. Gardner-Johnson went out for a little while and Kayvon Wallace had to come in. Like, there was a sizable drop-off there. And if Marcus Epps were to go down, if C.J. Gardner-Johnson were to go down, your back end is kind of screwed. So a guy like Jabril Peppers would be able to at least soften the blow there if an injury were to happen.